With me now is Vahid Yucesoy, expert in Iranian and Turkish politics. Vahid, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with the death of the supreme leader. What does this mean for the Iranian regime?
Well, it's been a watershed moment for a lot of Iranians, but as far as the Iranian regime is concerned, it's been actually, a moment that signifies, the weakening of the regime itself. But as we know, the Iranian regime has long been prepared for this scenario as well, and they're already preparing somebody else to replace him. But in terms of, the morale, it certainly gives a very negative signal to the regime.
Let's talk about Turkey, which borders Iran. The president condemning the attacks. He's also calling for all actors, especially in the Arab world, to take action. What do you make of that response?
The Turkish president has always been known for, his proximity to the Iranian regime, and they also share some ideological affinity as well. I mean, both are Islamists to varying degrees as well. So the spectra of a different kind of regime taking hold in Iran is not necessarily actually any good news for the Turkish regime. And also Turkey is visibly actually shattered and rattled by the possibility of any kind of unrest in Iran that might send a flow of refugees to Turkey. So that's one of the reasons why the Turkish government has been very active on the diplomatic front to find a solution, to the skirmishes that are taking place between the United States, Israel, and Iran.
This conflict seems to be escalating. The Iranian president is saying that their armed forces will leave enemies hopeless. What do you make of those comments? Do you see this continuing to play out in a violent manner?
Well, at this stage, the Iranian regime doesn't really have much to lose because, as we can see from the plans that have been laid by Israel and the United States, their goal is to topple the regime. So whether the Iranian regime strikes to the maximum of its capability or not, it's got absolutely nothing to lose. It remains to be seen, but I don't really think that the Iranian regime will have the capacity, to strike, very forcefully, against the American or Israeli targets. But, in the event that it takes place, it'll also face the consequences. And the consequences are likely to be very strong because on the basis of what we have been seeing, a lot of the key command centers of the Iranian regime have been bombed in various provinces, in so many cities as well. And they have also targeted the coercive apparatus that is notorious for repressing protesters. So it remains to be seen, to what extent the Iranian regime will strike, the American targets or will effect any kind of damage.
I see. Vahid, we'll have to leave it there. That's our time. Thank you very much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
That is Vahid Yucesoy, expert in Iranian and Turkish politics.